Hey folks, Justin from Tackle Tactics, out on the water for an afternoon run out tide. We're going to be fishing one of my favourite plastics in my kit. We're going to be talking about rigging it, where to fish it, and where we fish throughout the tide to get the bites. Stay tuned.
Over here on the beats making hits with hooks.
There we go, up over the weed. So we're just fishing that last few hours of the run out tide. Up over a weed flat at the moment. That's a nice little flatty holding up in the weed. We'll get this net and get underneath him. So that's the versatility of this little plastic that I've got tied on. It's a ZMan drop KickerZ 2.75 inch. Has an incredible little tail that allows you to fish it almost with any retrieve you like, anywhere you like virtually. That's a nice little flatty. He'd be legal. He's grabbed the midnight oil colour. We've had a fair bit of rain, the water's quite dirty, so I'm running that nice UV reactive colour. That's a nice little pan-sized flatty. And he's on that drop kick, as you can see. This guy, we'll have a closer look at him shortly, but it's got a unique tail on there that allows it to be fished at a stack of different retrieve speeds. Fish eat it when you're hopping it on the bottom, they eat it when it's just sitting there. Also just on the sink, they'll grab it. Has a really nice little subtle tight shimmy in the tail. So that guy's picked it up. I've just kicked off with a 1/4 ounce 1/0 in a DemonZ, and there's patchy weed here. You may see the colour changes in the background there, and we're just hopping this through those patchy weed areas. We're getting that bite. All right, so there you go. We'll talk a bit more about this deadly little plastic, how we like to rig it, how we like to fish it. Let's get this guy back in the water.
Just better catch my.
Oh, that feels okay. Bit of weight in that one. Just switching between a few different colours on light rods today. So flicking that 1/4 ounce 1/0, just like a 1 to 3 kilo rod. We're on the 1000 or the 2000 size reel with just a bit of 6-pound braid. 6-pound Platypus Pulse X8 I like. Nice, smooth, long casting braid. And then I've just got a 10-pound leader on there. That's got a bit of go to it. It's hard Armour leader on there. So hard Armour Supple leader. He's another nice little flatty. So we're not even on the low tide. So a lot of people like to fish the lower stages of the tide. We're about halfway down on the tide and we're up on top of an area that'll be totally out of the water on low tide. So that's what we call flats. When you hear me talk about flats fishing, we're talking about the area up on top of the bank where the bank will be out of water at low tide. And so here we're probably fishing in 2 foot of water, 60 centimetres of water, and we're just flicking around, picking the weed and sand pockets. So look for areas where it's lots of weed, where you can see it. There we go, there goes my leader. We got him in the net. That's why we kept his head underwater while we were fighting him, so he doesn't just shake his head and bust you off there. So I'll get him and we'll get that lure back out of him. Come on, flatty. Oh. There you go. That's another nice pan-sized flathead, so he'd be a legal fish. As you can see there, we've got to watch those spikes either side of his head when we're handling him. Watch those spikes there and also on top of his head. So yeah, so we're just holding him, using those fins underneath the fish to hold the fish so that we can handle it. All right, we'll get this plastic out of here. That's that 2.75 inch drop KickerZ from ZMan. We're going to get that out of him. We're going to get him back on his way. All right, that's 2 fish in quick time, 2 legal flathead. And I just thought I'd take the opportunity to talk you through why this plastic has become so popular. What is it about this that makes fish want to eat it? So a few colours here. There's some great colours in the range, all the favourites. Got our midnight oils and our yabby and shiner and that sort of thing. So this little bait fish profile, it has a beautiful bulky head section that allows you to rig a jig head nice and easy. But on the sides of that, it's got cutaway sides, which I think aids with the hookup rate of this plastic. It gives you more clearance around the hook, so if a fish hits it, they're pretty much hitting that jig head, even if they hit it from the side. And that body's also got lots of ribbing on there. So that ribbing adds water movement, but it also allows us to hold our scent in there really well to attract those fish and trigger the strikes. And then this is probably the main feature of this plastic that sets it apart from others that you'll have in your kit. It's got a really long worm-like tail, so even when it's just sitting on the bottom, it attracts fish with the movement and fish will come and hit that, folds away, and they find that jig head. And then on the end of it, we've got a bulbous wedge-shaped tail. And that little wedge-shaped tail allows it to move around, very wormy with that bulbous end. But as soon as you get it moving, you get a really tight shimmy in that tail. So it's like, sometimes you'll see those little schools of bait fish on the flats, and then a fish comes through and smashes them. You'll see them all moving around with a little shimmy, that shimmy of the tail. So it looks very, very natural, and it fishes for you throughout the retrieve, while it's sinking, while you're hopping or slow winding it, and even on the pause, it's going to attract fish and trigger strikes. So today, for those couple of fish so far, I'm fishing it on a 1/4 ounce 1/0. We're up on top of the flats here. So I like a 1/4 ounce 1/0. I fish the DemonZ a lot, which is this painted head with eyes. I really like the natural look of that. I can color match it to my plastic, and it's got a nice Gamakatsu super sticky black nickel chemically sharpened hook in there. If you prefer, just run that headlocks finesse in that 1/0, fits in there perfectly as well. I really like a 1/0 in that 2.75 inch drop kickers. Deadly little plastic, some really cool unique features on there. Enough chat, let's get this thing back in the water. Oh, look at all that bait up there. Just adjusted my cast and managed to get there. Mid swing. When you're out fishing, it's important to look for the road signs while you're out there. So I'm not talking about the beacons. In this case, I'm talking about water movement and things that we can see that might give away where the fish are. So basically, I'm up on a flat and I'm right on the edge of it here. You might be able to see there's a bit of a wind lane. We've got a bit of a scum line here, and the water is actually pumping out on this side of me, which is off the edge of the bank. And then the flat is up on this side, and it's got excellent broken weed and sand in here. So I'll throw a few casts into that current flow, but my real interest at the moment is up in these pockets where flathead and other species will be sitting. So I'm punching a cast, I can see the sand and the weed, so I'm casting into the sand patches. And just, oh, yep, there we go, there's a fish. So that fish was sitting right in the sand patch. So that's what we want to look for. We've got our flow, we've got our current line here. We're using the signs that are available to us that will show us where the fish are, and we're making that cast up into those sandy patches. So that fish was sitting exactly where he should have been, which we like to see. So that's another nice little flatty. Oh, he's fired up on the shallows here. And that's that 2.75 inch drop kickers getting the job done. So, you know, I'm just throwing that out there. I only got to give that a couple of little hops and that fish was all over it. They love that tail. Come on, buddy, in you go, in the net, in the net. We'll have a look at you and we'll send you back on your way. So there you go, beautiful, another pan-sized fish sitting in that sand pocket where he should have been, and he was just waiting to ambush the bait, and he thought that that 2.75 inch drop kickers looked pretty good. So there we go, that little dancing tail doing its job, flicking up into those edges of the weed and those little patches of sand. He was in the bottom there just waiting to ambush. I've given that a couple of twitches past his nose and he's just climbed all over it. That's the midnight oil colour again. We might actually change that colour up. We've caught a few fish on that colour already, and it is a favourite, especially with that little bit of glitter and that UV reactive motor oil base in there as well. So midnight oil, great colour when you're starting out. I've got another favourite here I might tie on, fish on. All right, so there we go, that didn't take long, another fish straight out of that pocket. As we said, we've got that high flow area here, worth a cast for trevally and brim and that sort of thing. We've got our wind lane and sort of scum line here right on the edge of the flat, and then weed edges and pockets that we're hitting, picking those pockets for a flathead. So we'll get back in there again, see if he's got a mate in there. Yep. No, yeah. He was swimming at me then. That fish was sitting right where that last fish came from. There was bait still up in there. Find the bait, find the fish. The bait is holding, the bait's working off the flat and into the edge of the weed here. And these guys are just picking it off. That is very cool. Oh, that's another nice fish. Oh, he's fired up. I love the drag on that little Okuma Inspira. That's the 2000. I've got it loaded up with 6 pound Platypus Pulse X8. My favourite braid, nice long, smooth casting braid. 8 carrier, really slick. Allows us those long casts right up into those weed pockets where guys like this are hiding. That's a beautiful fish. On our switch over to the shiner colour, so that's one of my favourite colours. A real nice mix of natural pearly colours and a greeny top that's also UV reactive. Nice, healthy, solid little fish. So there we go, that shiner colour, definitely a favourite. Pop that out, that little 1-0 doing its job, pinning that fish right in the side of the jaw. We're going to send that flatty back for you guys. So, oh, unorthodox release, but it's back out there for you guys. So get that 2.75 inch drop kickers on, get stuck in. Okay, the flatties keep interrupting us here, so I'm going to cast back in the same spot where we got those two. Surely there's not another one in there. And I'm just going to talk you through the retrieve that we're using. So basically just into the edge of the weed, that's right in a sand pocket there. Letting it fall to the bottom only takes a second because the water's shallow. And we're just giving it a 1, 2, 3, give it a few shakes. Oh, you're joking. You're joking. There's another one in there. There's a nice little pocket in there. I'm trying to demonstrate to you that we're giving it sort of 1, 2, 3 little hops and a pause. And the pause is when they're eating it generally. That's another fish. He looks like a carbon copy of that last fish. He's got a few mates in there. They're a schooling fish, so often when you find a flathead, you'll find more. And if you find a bunch of small males, they can often have a larger female in with them. This is a nice fish though. Just around that same size as that last one. But it was definitely there. They're making it difficult to tell you guys how I'm retrieving. They keep eating the lure. But that's the drop kickers. You don't need any crazy skill or anything like that to fish it because that tail is so effective and so unique. It's got that wedge-shaped tail. That one's actually a little bit better fish, I think. And it has scoffed it. So you can see there, we flicked it out. I let it hit the bottom. I was going to tell you guys about what I was doing, and he'd already come over and eaten it because it's swum down. It's sitting on the bottom. That tail's bobbing around, and he's just smashed it. So you can see there's a few tools that I keep handy on the deck here for when I'm fishing for flathead and even other species as well. I've got my braid scissors here, which is going to make it nice and easy to trim that bit of chewed leader off there, and I can get this retied. And those pliers are great for getting in there and getting that lure out without damaging the fish and without getting yourself spiked and that sort of thing as well. So I generally keep my pliers and scissors on the deck there with a bit of scent and a few other bits and pieces to keep us moving. While that bite's hot, we want to be in amongst it. Okay, back to the retrieve that we were trying to demonstrate just before. I'm not even throwing a long cast here because the weed is right here, the weed line, and I'm just going to put it into the pocket there. So just a nice little flick onto the weed edge there. That's where that last fish came from. Let it hit the bottom, and then it's just a few shakes of the rod tip while I'm winding the reel. Let it pause to the bottom, and I'm just sort of twitching that tail and getting that tail dancing and moving to stir the fish up. And then often on the pause, bang, they'll eat it. So you've got to be ready to feel that tick in the line, feel that tap of the fish, set the hook. Strikes are free, so it doesn't hurt to give it a whack if you do feel like you've had a bite. We'll keep chipping our way along this weed edge, see if we can find a couple more.
Okay, boy, let's talk about it. I know you.
That was a red hot little bite, fishing that bank there with the 2.75 inch drop kickers. The tide has dropped out a bit more now and the water's really dirtied up. So we've moved over to a different bank, fishing a bit deeper edge, and I'm going to step up the profile size as well. So I'm going to put on the 3.5 inch drop kickers just to give it a little bit more presence in the water, larger profile, a bit more movement and that, so that hopefully it helps the fish find it in this dirty water. So let's flick this around and I'll talk to you about the jig heads that I like to fish on this plastic, and we'll talk about the technique that we're using on this deeper bank. Let's get into it. All right, we've got our bite. Just switching between a couple of colours of the 3.5, moving along the edge here. The water's really dirty, so I'm switching between two different colours. The motor oil, which is traditionally a really good UV dirty water colour. And I'm also running another colour, which pearl colours often fish well in clean and dirty water. So I'm running a colour called Gussie's Glimmer. Oh, come on, buddy. Let's get you in the net. There's a fair bit of flow there, so we just want to get him out of the flow. That's a nice pale looking fish. He's probably up on the sandy edge here, and that's on the Gussie's Glimmer colour. So that's another option that you can try when the water's dirty. So we're switching between that motor oil and the Gussie's Glimmer. So you can see the nice light colour there. Pearl stands out pretty well in clean and dirty water, so that Gussie's Glimmer is a beautiful option. Now that larger profile plastic, we need a larger jig head to carry that, so that's on a 3/0 hook, and that's a DemonZ in a 1/4 ounce in the 3/0. So I haven't gone heavier because I'm still fishing down the edge, but I've gone a larger hook to carry that larger plastic. And as we said, the larger plastic isn't necessarily about catching larger fish, it's about giving us more profile, more vibration, more movement in the water to help this guy find it. So there you go. Golden Boy head, 1/4 ounce 3/0 DemonZ TT on our 3.5 inch Gussie's Glimmer colour in the drop kickers. Beautiful flatty. Let's send him back. On this deeper edge, we're still using that 1/4 ounce head, so we want to give it time to get down there, but we've got a lot of water flow here, so there's no point bringing the lure back with the flow because it's going to be riding up off the bottom. We want to get it down on the bottom where the flathead are. So we're throwing a big long cast up there into the flow, and we're bringing it back naturally with the flow, and those fish will be waiting in ambush for bait fish to be washed past them. So we give it a little bit of time to get down there, give it a few hops and shakes off the bottom, and those pauses are when we can expect a bite. So we're pausing it long enough so that it can get down there on the bottom, but we're watching that line because we've got to stay in contact. We've got to watch that line for that tap on the pause so that we can set the hook. So casting and fanning our casts up with the current, bringing it back naturally, getting to the bottom and watching for those bites. Oh, there we go. That is a bit different. I just hit him like a flathead, but that's goes to show, you know, being a Laztec, 10 times tough, super soft and flexible material, all sorts of species can still eat that thing and get it in their gob. So that's a chunky little brim. He's eating that 3.5 inch, not the target species, but that'll be what a few of the little knocks and bumps are that we're having on that lure. So send him. We want to get back in and get one of those flat ones. Oh, there he is. What are you? I was just talking about getting along a bit further and finding a bit more bait because we had a little bit of bait here. And then I got tapped then. Another brimbo. That's crazy. He's had a crack at it and missed it, but there must be a few brim here. Right in the middle. See that little bit of a swirling area there. Oh! Oh, I drilled that. Oh, what a bite. That was a cracker. That could be a trevally, that. Oh, some power. That has got some weight on it. I'm pulling back hard in this current. What are you, buddy? Are you a nice flatty? That was a brilliant eat right up on that edge. That's a nice flatty, I think. 3.5 inch drop kickers. Getting the job. We're on a little bit heavier gear here. We're on the... Oh, that is a cracker brim. Have a look at that guy. I don't mind catching those two other brim, little fellas. When you get a brim like that, follow it up. That is a weapon. That is the versatility of that plastic. It's such a narrow profile, wormy looking plastic, that beautiful little tail. It's going to attract all sorts of species. It's a flathead slayer, but it's still pretty cool when you catch a brim like that fella. That is a bit of a chunk of a brim. He drilled it and he went pretty hard in the flow too. So that little tail doing its job, attracting the fish's attention. He's smashed that. It's just folded away, and that's folded away and gone straight into the gob there, and you can see he's hooked on that 3/0 pretty secure. So flatties are our target, but a brim like that is pretty nice when you're fishing along an edge like this as well. All right, there we go. So nice chunk of brim on that 3.5 inch in the motor oil colour. Beautiful brim. We're going to send him back. You guys can get out and tangle with him. We'll see if we can get one more flat one to finish it off. Just push along this edge a little bit further. There's some nice bait along the edge, and where the bait is, that's where the fish are. So with that dirtier water and that upsize to the 3.5 inch, we need a larger hook than our 1/0 that we run in that smaller plastic. In this case, we run a 3/0. So you can see that 3/0 rides pretty well in there. It's in the body there. We've got the tail section here. Fish eats it, it folds away and finds that hook. So we run a 3.0. You can run a 3.0 in a Headlocks Finesse or in a DemonZ or in a Headlocks HD if you want a real heavy wire hook for stopping big fish, especially around structure. I'm running the DemonZ in a 1/4 ounce. As I was saying, I don't want much more weight here. I'm bringing it back with the flow, but I do want that larger profile jig head. If I was fishing here and I was fishing deeper or was running faster, I can always up it to a 3/8 ounce or even a 1/2 ounce if I need to. But in this case, 1/4 ounce 3.0 with that 3.5 inch drop kickers is perfect. Oh, hello. There's a nice eat on the edge there. Bit of run on that one. Love that sound of that Inspira drag zinging out there. What are you this time, buddy? So that's our 3.5 inch along the edge there. A little bit of weight in it, might be a nice flatty. It is a nice flatty, that is beautiful. Ah, in the boat, awesome. Well, there you go. We got our flatty straight up on this bank on the larger profile. Then we got into a runner brim and now we're back on a flathead to finish with. So that's been a pretty epic session, that little 2.75 up on the edge of the flats on the dropping tide. Now we're on a bit deeper edge, that larger profile for a bit more visibility and a bit more action. And getting ourselves another flatfish. Come here, mate, I'll grab onto you so we can have a closer look at you. Oh, he's playing up, this guy. We'll get him back in the water, but there you go. Another nice handful of flatty, another legal flatty. That's on that 3.5 inch in the motor oil color. So there you go. Good fun, fishing a couple of different edges, different techniques and that different profile size, getting us the bites on both banks. So if you haven't got a drop kickers from ZMan in your kit, have a bit of a closer look at them at tackletactics.com.au. Get out there and get stuck into a few flatties. Fish on.